As we continue to live in this youth-centric world, that means that the media lens is always trained on the faces of the young, the pretty, the beautiful, celebrities. And in the meantime, what tends to happen is that women, particularly those of us in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, continue to get smudged out, airbrushed out of the natural picture. So in today's show, what I'm going to do is to highlight 7 truths that I actually live by, where I rebut this sense that older people are fragile, they've got no contribution to make in the world, they're useless, and they're sort of, given up on themselves. And it's a way that I certainly do not live. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's show. Before I do any of that, if you're one of my regulars, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Bybreen Samuels, and I help baby boomers reinvent themselves psychologically, practically, and technically so they can thrive in their third act of life. So just a couple of days ago, on September the 20th, there was this article about ageism in the media. And there are a group of researchers, gerontologists, and what they discovered was that particularly during lockdown and the whole kind of COVID pandemic, that the coverage and the portrayal of older people was very much a sense of a helplessness. Now, there have been some strides that are being made within the media, but it's kind of the ship is turning very, very slowly, because we still have phrases like silver tsunami, which is sort of like a subtle dig at the destructiveness of aging, because if we think about the word tsunami, it's this large wave that crashes and causes destruction. Now, as somebody who is 60, and I love aging, so I'm very much a pro-aging baby boomer, I can say from my own personal perspective that I enjoy the aging process. I'm really blessed that I've got to the age of 60. I really do hope that I have at least another 2, 3, 4 decades in me, but who knows? But while I am here, I'm living with a sense of joy and purpose. And the way that I live is really kind of driven by what I'm calling my 7 truths, my 7 laws. So the first one that I've really applied throughout my life, and it doesn't just pertain to being in my 60s now, but it is this sense of validating myself. I'm a great cheerleader of myself and of other people. And for me, validation really comes from this perspective. I'm able to look into my own eyes, stare into them, into the mirror. But in doing so, I'm looking back over the 6 decades that I've lived. And in the 6 decades that I've lived, there's been highs and lows and peaks and troughs and challenges and high points. But by validating myself, what I do is I comb through the trillions of pieces of data that exist. Each and every one of us, we have trillions of pieces of data. And I comb through and I look at, what were those moments, for example, when my back was against the wall, when things looked really gloomy. One example is when I was on the dole. On one of the occasions that I was on the dole, I was actually placed in a job club. Absolutely hated it, and was a real waste. I really got to see how public money is kind of pumped into organizations that don't do very much, but I digress, that's another story. But while I was on this job club, you had to roll up every week, 2 to 3 times a week, sit in front of an advisor and literally start looking for jobs. I mean, it was a waste of time, as if people don't have a sense of competence, but nonetheless. And it got to the point, because it was during the downturn years, I call them the wilderness years, from about 2008 through to about 11, 12, where it was like, tough times. We all face those tough times. What was I going to do to begin to transition myself? So I combed through this, vast amount of data that I'm swimming in, and I wrote my book. And this book was the book actually that created such leverage. I absolutely loved the whole process. But what it allowed me to do was I was able to comb through my experience and my expertise and my knowledge and package it into a product. I love the whole entrepreneurial journey of, writing it and finding my own people who print books, my own printer. and then selling it into 6 sectors by cold calling. It really gave me a great sense of my own validation, because I was in a situation where my back was against the wall, and what was I going to do to overcome it? So actually writing my book gave me great validity, and it's something that I encourage you to do wherever you are in your journey, but particularly for those of us who are in our 3rd and final act, however long that lasts. How do you begin to rebut the negative connotations about what it means to be old and aging? I'm very comfortable with the aging process. Some people are less comfortable about the aging process. And by the way that I live my life, one of the things is to help people become less afraid of what it means to age. And so that's the first one, the validation. Validate yourself first and foremost. And by doing so, what it does, it helps you to look at life through your own lens first. So I very much approach the world primarily through my own lens, and then obviously there's stimuli that I take on board, but then it's about being discerning about that. So my first truth, my first law is around validate yourself. The second one is about identifying your hobbies. Over the decades, we've had focuses on a whole range of things. You may have given up your hobbies, maybe in your teens or your 20s, as other priorities, appeared in your life. And here you are, consistently being scrubbed out of this national photograph. But what about your hobbies? What's the thing that lights the fire inside of you? Go back to earlier periods in your life. It could be childhood. It could be, your teens. You pick the period, but there was a period in your life where you did something or some things that brought you absolute joy, and you would while away, hours would go by because you were steeped in your hobbies. And I love hobbies. I've got several hobbies. And so, for example, back in 2021, 2 years ago, I wanted to develop one of my hobbies around songwriting. So over the years, I've written creatively. So I've written academically, but also creatively. I've written a TV pilot, a couple of plays, and a collection of songs. And so 2 years ago, an opportunity came by where there was an opportunity to do the Songwriting Academy's bootcamp. And it was absolutely brilliant. 5 days of brilliance in so many different ways. And so I was able to cultivate one of my hobbies, really understanding, I've got a long way to go, but really understanding the nuances of compiling, composing, writing a song. And as a result of me diving into one of my hobbies, this one being songwriting, I collaborated with 2 Gen Z men. They were in their early 20s. And we wrote a song. We co-wrote a song, and one of them went on to sing it. So it's released. It's called The Old Me Dies. And it was a really great moment, because developing my hobby has given me additional skills, around collaboration, about the germination of ideas, about how you synthesize information and turn it, at the end of the day, a song. You've literally got 3-4 minutes at best to tell this story. So I actively encourage you to dive into your hobbies. Think about the thing that lights the fire in you. So the girl in you, the boy in you, or the young woman or the young man in you comes to life again. Hobbies are great. My third one is about creating a bucket list. I love bucket lists. So this is my micro bucket list book. And in this bucket list, I won't show you the contents of the bucket list, but I have identified 141 things that I will be doing in my 3rd act of life. Now, I've started to tick off some of them, but it's wonderful. Creating a bucket list, what it does, it elevates you, because what you're doing is creating this supervision of your life, and it's pulling you, it's inspiring you to reach for higher goals, whatever those goals are, because you're the one who's determining the goals. But creating a bucket list, what's fantastic is that each one that I tick off, I've still got a lot more to go. I add another one because I'm aiming to create a bucket list of 300 activities and things that I want to do in my life before I leave it. So this week, for example, I had the opportunity to go to Switzerland. I was there from Wednesday through to Friday, and it was brilliant because one of the things in my bucket list was I wanted to do this slow train travel through the mountains and the Swiss Alps. And so I got a train from Geneva through to Zermatt, which is about 3.5 hours. So the whole journey took about 7-ish hours. And it was beautiful because I could take in the beautiful scenery, you know, just the imagery, the expansiveness of the world that we live in. And so I was able to tick off one of the items on my bucket list. So I actively encourage you, oops, let's put that in there. I actively encourage you to tick off the bucket list, create one. Really dream about it, everything that you want to do, whether you think you can get through it in this lifetime, put it down, walk around with it, or at least be looking at it regularly. So that helps you to keep in your world instead of being dragged out into the media's perception of who they think you are as a baby boomer. Really, really powerful. My fourth one is what makes you distinctive. Now, think about this, because where you are distinctive, it allows you to be creative, innovative, to stand out. You know, it's a very Uranian idea, a Uranian concept, being distinctive. A way that you can think about it is pose this question: what scent do I leave in any environment that I'm in? Or what perfume? What aftershave? What is it? What scent do you think you leave when you go into environments? Now, one of my favorite scents I have to show you is L'Occitane. It's a French brand and it's beautiful. The scent is very citrusy, fresh. And so for me, it connotes vitality. And I also absolutely love the smell. But let's kind of turn that around a bit more. That helps you think about what makes you distinctive, because what I'm inviting you to do, because on my t-shirt, as I hope you can see, is unlock your superpower. So this sense of creativity and innovation, one of the things that makes me distinctive is I'm really, really, really good at connecting the dots between what appears to be disparate topics or themes. You know, really connecting the dots and synthesizing information. It's one of my superpowers that I've unlocked. You also have your own version of this. You might have several superpowers. Invariably, you will have several superpowers. But identifying them helps you think about and behave and live into your distinctiveness. All right. So that's what I'm encouraging you to think about. What makes you stand out? The next one I want to identify, I think that's 5. Okay. Oh, we're back. That was 4. 5. Join online and offline communities. Now, feels like 8 years ago, it could have been on the tail end of the downturn and going through those years. I remember going to, it was a business seminar. In fact, the person who inspired me to write my book, and he was talking about, you know, what was coming in terms of social media. And one of the things that he said was, our opportunities are going to come through, certainly the people we know, but these kind of concentric circles of friendships, networks, and communities. You know, we saw through lockdown the importance of being in community, and it was virtually online. So getting into community helps to reduce isolation. It then opens up the opportunity for new friendships, new acquaintances, new opportunities, and also it places you in the mix. So one of my really good friends, who we haven't actually met in person, but we met during lockdown, tail end of lockdown, and we met online. And we met through a webinar that was talking about the issues to do with aging, but the speaker was about pro-aging, so it was great. And so she and I connected on this online webinar. And literally from about last March, April, we've been in regular contact. At one point, it was every single week. It still is every single week online. Yeah, we set up a Zoom call and we're just diving in. So I've made and have made other friends, but I'm just giving you this as an example, that great friendships can come from online groups, but also offline groups. So really get into groups. Now, one of the things that can happen when you are participating in an online group, just think about the kind of Facebook groups. I'm in about 3 Facebook groups, and in all of them, I've been identified as a top contributor. That means that I'm somebody that's always in, not always in there, but I contribute, I'm commenting, I'm giving ideas or suggestions or high-fiving somebody. This is another way that you can bring visibility into your life. And because you're showcasing who you are, you're being in community with others, and it's with people that are sharing similar interests to you. So that one is number 5. Number 6 is, let me make sure I haven't missed one. So offline group, how to become lucky. Now, luck can touch us on the shoulder, it can just gently, touch us on the shoulder. But if we're so stressed out and we're being pulled from the outside in, then we might miss these fantastic opportunities that literally are tapping us on the shoulder or knocking on the door. And so how do you get into the lane of luck? What can bring you there? Now, one of the things that can actually bring you into luck's path is by showcasing your skills. Take this, for example, we have social media. We've had social media for at least the last 10 years. It's a great way to bring opportunities to you, but also for you to seize opportunities. One example from my world was back in, I think it was 2014 now, there was an opportunity that came through from the BBC, and what they were looking for were media commentators. And I literally saw this advert. I think it came up on LinkedIn. I saw this advert and I thought I could do that. I've never had any media training, not any formal media training, but what I did have and what I do have and what I'm communicating through with you is my YouTube. My tiny little YouTube channel. And at that time I was focusing, it was the early days of when I was doing astrology and it was just beginning to put out content. But I used my YouTube channel, and I don't even think I had 100 people at that point. I was very grateful for the 100 people. I'm grateful for everybody who watches or likes and subscribes to my channel. But at that point, I think I had about 100 people. I saw this opportunity on LinkedIn and I just grabbed it. And what I did was I applied and I sent a link to one of my YouTube channel, one of my episodes, sent it. And, there was a process, and then I was selected. I think I applied for London because I'm based in London, and London was oversubscribed. But they approached me and said, why don't you apply for Birmingham? And when I looked at the criteria, it fitted part of my background because I sort of tied it to my book and the public sector. And I thought, yeah, this ties more tightly with what they're asking for. Anyway, I rocked up and I was selected. And as a result of that, I've been interviewed on radio several times. And then just as lockdown was happening, I was on BBC World News. So that was great. That was good fun. But I was in the lane of luck. Why? Because behind the scenes, I was beavering away, doing my little YouTube videos like I am now, saw an opportunity, luck struck, and there's that phrase, preparation meets opportunity. And that was very much a case of preparation meets opportunity. And then just today, another opportunity has come to me that I'm going to apply for. And it came through one of my networks, and it's an opportunity for me to speak and present publicly and internationally. And so I thought, I'm definitely going for that. Why? Because it's in my bucket list. So it aligns with what it is that I'm drawing into my world, but who I see myself as being, speaking internationally. So I would say start honing and start showcasing your skills, whatever those skills are. Therefore, you are prepared to seize the opportunities when they come. So that's the sixth one. Then the seventh one is get fit. Now, I'm a strong advocate of fitness and movement and exercise. I have done it for 55 years, since my first egg and spoon race at Singlegate School with my national health glasses. But I dropped the egg, but I sprinted. And from that day, I have just built this wonderful, I call it my personal practice of exercise. Now, what does it do? It helps with stabilizing you, mentally, and it improves your physicality. It also gives you a sense of pride, because when you look at yourself, you're proud of how your body looks. And what it took, getting fit requires you to be dedicated and disciplined. But don't kind of beat yourself up that you have to do it rigidly. Wherever you are on your journey, please, please, please include getting fit. It also helps to stave off age-related diseases like Alzheimer's disease and cardiovascular health and, joint problems. So get into this sense of developing this practice of exercise. Now, taking the 7 together, so we've got validate yourself, identify your hobbies, create your bucket list, what makes you distinctive, what makes you stand out, how are you going to unlock your superpower? Joining online groups. Don't sit on the sidelines as baby boomers. Don't sit on the sidelines. When you are in these groups, you've lived 5, 6, 7, 8 decades and beyond. You've got something to contribute to the group. Put yourself in the line, not of fire, but of community. We all want to feel part and parcel of something. So get into your groups online as well as offline. So my birthday was about 5 weeks ago, and which was wonderful. Love being 60 and celebrating that. And I'm continuing to celebrate my 60th through the 60th year, I suppose. So meeting my friends offline, but also being out, networking, meeting a whole range of other people is going to help you feel less isolated. But what it will do is increase your visibility. So do that. Get in the lane of luck. And what's going to help you get into the lane of luck is for you to showcase your skills. You decide what they are, because when you think about, there are these buckets, and I think it was Stephen Bartlett who speaks about the 5 buckets, and they are the 5 buckets of talent and knowledge, or skills and knowledge, networks, resources, and reputation. And as baby boomers, we're in our 3rd act, and we have the 5 in varying degrees. And I'm inviting you to start combing through those 5. Where do I need to increase my skills? What really are my talents? What networks am I part of? But where do I participate? Where do I show up? How can I show up? What resources do I have? And they don't always have to be fiscal resources. They could be in-kind resources. They could be exchange resources. And then about reputation. What's your reputation? What's your own reputation of yourself? And what's the reputation that the public has of you? Taken together, all of this helps you to build your visibility. So if you're feeling unseen, dive into any one of these areas to kickstart that journey. I remember when I was a practicing Buddhist, I haven't practiced for about 8 years, but I do remember there was this ongoing conversation, sort of bubbling on the horizon from women, older women in particular, who were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. They were practitioners definitely in their 70s, who spoke about this sense of feeling invisible and being ignored and feeling unseen in the world. And so I actively encourage you to step into your own visibility. Don't wait for other people to make you feel visible. Yes, we have the media kind of coverage. Yes, we have wider society's perception. And then we have other people's perspective of who they think we are as older people. But you have your own sense of vitality and chutzpah and your ability to contribute to the world. Don't wait for anybody else's permission to do so. Rise up, step in, lean into who you are. So they're my 7 truths. They are my 7 laws that I actively practice to ensure that I remain visible. I'm not here to prove it to anybody else. I'm here to continue to revitalize my own life. And by doing so, if that happens to touch other people and make or encourage other baby boomers to feel as if it's not the end of the world for them because society has smudged them out, then that's a great thing. I remember when I was in my engineering journey, when I was retraining as a software engineer, I started that in my mid-50s. And I remember being at one of these coding meetups. There were so many, but there was this one in particular. And I was talking to these 2 younger women who were they were Gen Zs. And I was mentioning something about 50 because I was the only person of my age group. I was the only boomer in the room. And they were remarking on, how energetic I was. And it was like, well, I'm not alone in the energy stakes, but I was alone in terms of older people placing themselves in environments that they think they shouldn't be in, step into those environments. But one of the great things that came from the conversation was these 2 younger women said, I've never met an older woman who's really comfortable with aging and is not trying to hide away. So every one of you baby boomers, you've got something or some things to contribute in the world. Let your light and life shine. I'm just going to put my goggles on because I can see somebody, his name is Mon Taylor. I'm going to click on this, Mon Taylor. Thank you very much for your comment. I hope this comes up. Mon Taylor, thank you very much for your gracious compliment. I really appreciate that. So I would love to know, as baby boomers, where are you on your journey? Are you somebody that feels, you're over 60, you've kind of given up on yourself, or you've allowed, or not so much allowed, life challenges us, trust me. I really do know what that is all about. And I've been the phoenix that has risen from the ashes time and time again. But don't ever give up on yourself, really. Time is here, seize it. So I'd love to know if you're somebody who feels unseen and why that is, if you wish to share that. And if you choose to apply any one of my 7 laws that I actively live with, live by, live through, because I am the first lens that I must view myself with, and then that lens then goes out into the world. So I'd actively encourage you to do that. Please put your comments in the comment box below. I would love to hear from you. I'd like to jam with you. Don't be bashful. Put your comments in the comment box below, and please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and invite other baby boomers to come and join us on a Sunday here, 3:30. I know I didn't do it last Sunday, but I did leave a message in the community tab. So that's where I like to try and keep you up to date with what's going on in my world, in the community tab. But I wish you a fantastic week, and I want you to feel less visible in your life, in your world. You are worth it. So let your life shine. Let your life and your light shine. And I will see you again next Sunday. Bye.